David, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
We're already recording, so I just want to let you both know that, and we're already live streaming.
Okay,
I could turn my video on. Sorry about that.
okay, hi,
um,
I will.
Hey,
Hi, Michelle.
Michelle's muted.
Oh, that's right, you're muting everyone, I'm sorry.
Jane, what order did you want to do this?
I want to do it in an order where I only have to write one resolution.
Well,
That really long one last time, what was it? You know, the one, the house, the double house on East 7, wasn't it East 70th Street?
yeah, well, mine weren't too short, but let's figure out which one is the longest. So you should take the one that's the longest then, and I'll take the other two.
Then it usually ends up, it's a move to approve. Kind of pull up and then it's okay. Let's see, I'm just trying to find the agenda here. I sort of miss meeting in person. Does everybody else miss meeting in person? Or is it
Yeah.
just me?
Yeah,
Is that Shelley Friedman I see? Muted. Who's he the attorney for? Why don't you take that resolution, David? That might be, I'm just kidding.
take which one?
That's the Loyola School.
I see Shelley Friedman there. It must be complicated. Is that the one?
Well, that's a build, if you looked at the preliminary submissions, it's a classroom building and inside the courtyard.
Oh,
Yes.
that's Loyola, the Loyola School.
Right.
Yeah, because Shelley is so good at handling all the applications for all the independent schools.
And then Tenny's 92nd Street is, adding on to an existing rooftop. It doesn't look like it adds to the visibility.
I know, I don't think that'll be complicated. I think the worst one will be writing up Loyola. So do you want to take that one and I'll take the other two?
Okay, I love educational work, so I'll take Loyola.
Okay.
You can do the general introduction as always. Nobody does it better than you, Jane.
Okay, we've only got 2 minutes to start. I'm just looking for the, oh, here we go. May agenda, okay.
I can also put it up on the screen if you'd like.
I would like that. That would be
Yes.
great. Now, what I really
What
want to
happens
see-
is I've got it on my iPad. The trouble is the iPad goes off every 5 minutes.
That sounds about
So if you
right.
had the agenda on the screen, that would be good.
Yeah, I'll have it up for while you two are talking right now.
I'm just looking at the agenda
Can you
myself.
see it?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, great.
Oh, the pre-submission. What is the date of that?
Which one?
Where you can see the pre-submission materials, because I could click onto that and see the submission.
Yeah,
But
you
I'm
can
trying
click on that. If you just click on it, it should come up.
No, I know that, but what I'm trying to find out is that on my, did I get an email with the pre-submission materials?
You should have, but I'm also going to put the link to the agenda in the chat for everybody. They can click that and go straight to the website and see it there.
Well, I'm trying to do it on my
I
iPhone,
know.
which is complicated. So I know I had the pre-submission materials somewhere, but oh dear. Okay, I just lost sight. Let me look up the agenda again. Okay, just 1 second. We're going to start.
I can also shoot that to you in an email. If you'd like.
Yeah, if you could shoot me in an email the this agenda with the pre-submission materials attachment, that would be great. Okay, here we go. I'm going to start in a minute. It's now 6:30.
Where's the rest of our committee?
They're trickling in. I see Anthony Cohen, Barry Schneider is here. Brian Correa is a new board member who's also here. Kim Selway is here. Michelle Birnbaum is here. Mrs. Brown is here. And
We really need a listing
Elizabeth
so we
Ash.
have a way to take the vote.
I have that up on my screen. I figured I would do it again if that's okay with you.
Thank you, Will. It's now 6:30, so we should start. Are we ready to start, Will, or did you want to wait a second?
Give me 1 second. I have to rename a couple people. Do you still need me to email you the?
I do,
agenda?
but you can do it in a few minutes. You don't have to do it right now.
I just need to rename a couple of people who are in as phone numbers.
Okay. So David, the first agenda item is the Loyola School.
I see that there's a phone number that ends with 472. I think that actually is Elizabeth Ashby. I'm going to unmute her for a second.
Yeah, I can't get much. All I get is the big agenda and a couple of pictures.
Correct. I'm going to merge your video and your audio, Elizabeth, and the agenda is all really that's up right now. Okay. So it looks like pretty much everyone is renamed and correct. If you guys are ready to get going.
We are going to get going because it's now 6:33. So
Perfect.
am I on the air now, Will?
You are.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. This is the May meeting of the Landmarks Committee of Community Board 8. We have 3 agenda items. We are here to vote on the context and appropriateness within the historic district of those 3 items. We will hear from the applicant for each agenda item, then we will hear from the public, then we will go into executive session and formulate a resolution. So with that, we're going to start. David Halpern, I should add that these resolutions that we formulate will then be voted on by the full board, which is meeting via Zoom, our whole new world, this coming Wednesday. So with that, we're going to start. I think David Halpern's handling the first application, the Loyola School.
Jane and David, do you want me to give a real quick explanation of how the Zoom meeting will work with raising hands?
Sure. I know everybody was here last month except for our new member of Community Board 8, Brian Correa.
And we also have another couple of new members. Harrison is also a new member, but there's also members of the public and the applicants. I just want to really quickly explain, everybody is muted and you cannot chat anybody other than myself. If you have any questions or problems, you can always chat me in the chat at the bottom of your screen. To be unmuted, to be called on to make raise a question or make a comment, you'll have to raise your hand through the icon in the participants menu. That's at the bottom of your screen. It'll be a little button that looks like 2 people and has the number 28 next to it. You'll open that, and in the bottom of that, you'll find the raise hand feature, and then they will be able to call on people once their hands are raised. If you have any questions, you can chat me, or I'll put my email address in the chat box. Sorry to interrupt.
So David, do you want to start?
David disappeared, and
So I assume you did the introduction. So
I
did.
did. Yes, I did.
She
David.
did.
So I will start with 6369 East 83rd Street, Park Avenue Historic District, architect builders, a Renaissance Revival building originally constructed between 1899 1900, housing the Loyola School. Application is for a 6-story enlargement at the rear yard and for a handicapped accessible ramp at the entrance. So I assume that the applicant is here. Do we have an applicant?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, you see
Oh,
Mr.
very
Friedman.
good. Okay. Shelley, I guess you'll introduce it.
All right. Can you hear me? Will?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, fine. Well, good evening, everybody, and I hope everybody's well. I'm going to take a second or two of your time. Ernie Harris, the project architect, is going to take you through the application. I just wanted to let you know that we're joined here tonight by Mary Claire Longo, the chair of the board of Loyola. Ed Knapp is also on the line, on the call. He is one of the chief administrative officers of the school. So if you have any questions about the school itself, outside of the application, they'll be happy to answer your questions, but otherwise are here as a resource. All I want to add to Ernie's presentation is to explain, because I know everybody on this committee is diligent and does their homework, that as typical to religious multi-building campuses owned by religious institutions, there's a lot of confusion on this site in the DOB records with regard to the zoning lots, the tax lots, misapplied postal addresses. If you've been doing your homework and you're confused by any of that, we understand that, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have regarding all of that. But for this application, the school is requesting an extension in a yard that is totally surrounded by buildings that are either controlled by the Archdiocese or controlled by the Society of Jesus, that is the Jesuits. So it's a totally enclosed courtyard. It's not accessible or visible to the public. There are no adjacent neighbors. And this is something that's obviously very important to the school. I'm going to conserve your patience and energy and give it over to Ernie. I'll be happy to answer. You know, I should also add, this is not an as-of-right project. It's a complex description of a zoning issue, but we are going to have to go to the Board of Standards and Appeals because this block of old buildings is already non-complying. And whether we were adding 2 square feet of open space or 2,000 square feet of open space, we would have to go to the Board of Standards and Appeals for relief anyway. So you will see this application again at the Land Use Committee after the Landmarks Commission approves this application and we file at the BSA. So with that, I'll give it over to Ernie.
Can I be heard?
Yes,
Yes,
Okay, good.
but speak up because it's
Yes.
not perfect.
Okay. It
Do
would
we
be,
get the drawings? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I remember last month we were able to see the drawings as the speaker was presenting.
yes, if we can, do I have the permission to share my screen, Will?
you do. Yes, you
Okay.
should be able to share it now.
Can you all see the screen?
Yes,
Excellent. Okay, you see 2 things up on the screen. The first on the right is a view of where we're proposing to put the addition as if you were standing with your back to the church. On the left is the first page of the presentation that you've seen. So let me go through that first page and explain the various buildings on this block. What you're looking at here is a photograph from a drone with Park Avenue in the foreground, 84th Street behind, 83rd Street in the foreground. And the buildings include the Church of St. Ignatius, which is an individual landmark here, St. Ignatius School, which is behind it, which is a grammar school, the parish house or rectory is here with a little black diagonal going across it. That's a walkway. The school, Loyola School, the original building from 1900 is here. There's an annex to Loyola here. It's actually an annex to Loyola on the first 3 floors, and Jesuit residence on the 3 floors above that. Continuing down the lot, there's a garden which is adjacent to the Jesuit residence and a Jesuit office building here. The historic district ends right here at the juncture between 100 feet in, the juncture between the 1900 building and the 1954 building of Loyola. If I go to the next page of the presentation, you see essentially the same information in plan view. The church is here in the light blue, the parish house in the tan, the 1900 building, the green building, 1900 school building is in this pea color, I suppose. The annex is a lighter green. The proposed addition location is the darker green, and the courtyard we're proposing behind it is the darker green again. The red line here, which I'll try to trace down here, over and back, is the western limit of the historic district. And again, the church is an individual landmark. None of the other buildings in the block are. Trying to explain this most quickly and clearly, I'd like to go to this slide. This is an axonometric view of the existing conditions. What you see is the parish house on the left, the school, the original school at the top of the page, the residence and the annex to the school adjacent to it. The next slide explains where we're proposing to put the addition, which is 40 feet wide, 34 feet deep. So we're proposing a 6-story addition above ground and 1-story below ground. A courtyard here, which will have skylights opening to the lower level, to the cellar level. And this is mechanical equipment up on the roof. This is an elevator penthouse. This bit here is a connection to an existing stair tower, just to be able to provide 2 means of egress for each of the floors. The lower floors already have the 2 means of egress. We require this for the upper 2 floors of egress. And if I go to, I'll be happy to go through this more slowly if you'd like, but let me jump to the next slide, which is the proposal for the ramp on 83rd Street. One of the main parts of this application is to make the building completely handicapped accessible. The elevator, which I mentioned briefly, is obviously a key part of that accessibility, but of course you need to get into the building. And so what we're proposing is a ramp which is in this area here, right behind the woman who's looking at her cell phone. This is obviously a photograph of the existing conditions. This is a decorative railing, not original, but a decorative railing, which goes around call it an areaway, which is at 1 step up from street level. We're proposing cutting into that, ramping down to what's existing already as a door. So that if you look at this small plan down here, the way this works is that there's an existing gate in the fence here, where you walk down 2 steps and get into the door here. Our ramp would go essentially from the level of the areaway down to meet the level that the bottom of the stairs, and then in you go into this door. This will then allow you to get through the building to the elevator, which is over here someplace. That's my quick explanation of the proposal. I'll be happy to do it in more depth or more slowly if anybody wants me to.
Is there anything visible from the street?
There are, let me go back. Sorry. Here we go. This page is the sightline drawing that Landmarks always requires. And there is no visibility in either of these cases from 83rd Street or from Park Avenue. However, James Ricciello from Landmarks worked with Ed Knapp over the weekend on Saturday and identified two small areas where the addition would be visible. One of them is from 84th Street and minimally visible in his words. One of the locations is on 84th Street, a quarter of the way east of Park Avenue in front of East 84th Street. On a diagonal, you'd be able to see perhaps 3 or 4 feet of the top of the elevator bulkhead here. That's one. The second one is from Madison Avenue and 83rd Street. You would now see a mechanical unit up on the roof of the Jesuit residence. We're proposing to remove that. And if it's removed, you would see the elevator bulkhead here. Again, the elevator bulkhead, I think, would be less visible. I know it would be less visible than the mechanical equipment that you see now. If you want, I can pull up the photographs that James took on the weekend to see those conditions.
I think that could be helpful. It sounds minimal, but
Yeah,
as long as you have the photos.
Sure, give me a moment to find them. Okay, here's James standing on the roof. Here is the one from, here's the view from Madison and 83rd. You see the mechanical unit here. And this would be removed, and you'd see the elevator bulkhead behind, essentially in this little corner. This is the view from 84th Street, East 84th. You see the top of that, the green bag on the top of the pole, which James is holding up in the previous photograph. So those are the two views that in which the elevator bulkhead would be visible.
I know we don't see it and it's in the courtyard, but I'm expecting comments on the architectural character. Is there anything you'd like to say about the character of the building?
Sure. I'll use this one. No, I think I'll use the elevations. What we're trying to do here is to make what architects call a background building. In other words, something that doesn't call attention to itself and essentially echoes the character of the buildings around. Now, this is a rear courtyard, and obviously the facades of the buildings that are back here were not as carefully designed as the fronts of the buildings. But what's in common here is the red brick. And what you'll also notice is in the, if we look at the photograph on the right, the floor-to-floor heights reduce as you go up the building, which is a very traditional historical architectural trick. So what we're proposing is that the addition will be built out of red brick, but we have the intention of putting a trellis on the north face of the addition and also on the existing face of the gym to enhance the sort of to enhance the pleasantness of the courtyard, which is a sitting area with some planting in it. The trellis system will look something like this. This is a view of the very system that is on a different building, obviously. It's a stainless steel system, 1/8 inch diameter rods, and this is climbing hydrangea, which we're proposing to put obviously at the base and have it go up the building. So we're trying to keep the addition as low key and respectful as possible. You see that the windows diminish in size as they go up the building. In this elevation, you see a couple of skylights that light down into the lower level, into the cellar.
I think that's pretty complete at this point, unless you can think of anything else you feel you should share with us.
No, I'm done talking.
And I think we should open it to the public. Will, do we have people who want to speak?
Not yet. And it's just a reminder for there are several people who joined after I gave a little explanation, but to raise your hand, you will need to go to the participants menu at the bottom of your screen. It looks like two people standing next to each other with the number 35 next to it. You'll open that and there will be a button in the bottom left-hand corner titled Raise Hand. If you just click that button, we'll be able to see that you have a question. Still nothing, so.
Well, then let's go to the committee.
Would you like me to go alphabetical order like we did last time?
I think that would be helpful, particularly since both Jane and I have to get that listing so that we can tally the votes.
Ah, yes. Would you like me to email that to you, or would you like me to just tally it up and put it on the screen like I did last month?
Same as month is fine.
Hmm?
I said the same as last month. I thought it worked pretty well.
It's fine, yeah. You had it on the screen last time.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so first would be Elizabeth Ashby. So give me 1 second to unmute her and let her collect her thoughts. Elizabeth? You may have to push a button to accept.
Is the sharing stopping them from
I
finding
don't
the
think
right?
so.
I can stop screen sharing if you want me to.
Well, it's probably going to have to come back on again, but if it's blocking.
Oh, wait.
If it's blocking,
It shouldn't be, but
okay.
Elizabeth, can you?
It looks like on my screen it's blocking.
I'm gonna skip her for 1 second and see if Gil Barron can access.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Gail.
Okay.
okay.
My question has to do with the handicap ramp. Can you tell me what the dimensions are and how far onto the sidewalk the ramp would go?
Yes. If we look at this slide here, there's an existing areaway. And so it's all within that areaway. The ramp would be behind that fence that you see here. So it wouldn't impact on the existing sidewalk at all.
Oh, yeah, very, very good. Also, I was thinking in terms of the addition, if you're walking down 83rd Street and you just kind of look into the courtyard area, I mean, how obtrusive or non-obtrusive is it?
You
I
can't see it. You
Hmm?
can't,
You
when
can't see it, right?
you can't see anything from 83rd Street.
Okay. That was my
You
question.
you see the face of the 1900 building, then you see the face of the 1954 building, and the courtyard is behind the 1900. It's just not visible from there at all.
Okay. Those were my questions. Thank you.
Sure.
Elizabeth, we can hear you now.
Okay. Because it's virtually invisible, I don't really have very high standards for it. So I can pretty well accept anything that's invisible. And from what I can tell, including the Seurat screen, it really isn't all that visible. And I think the handicapped access is perfectly fine. So I'll support this.
All right. Next up would be Michelle.
Yeah, hi, thank you. A couple of questions. You said that the elevator bulkhead would not be visible if you keep or take away the mechanicals. Let's say you remove the mechanicals, where will they go?
So what I said, just to be clear, what I said is that the mechanical unit, which is here, once it's removed, will allow you to see this elevator bulkhead. So well, the mechanical unit here serves the gym, which is here, and the cafeteria or commons, which is below it. Once we remove that, the mechanical equipment will be a different type and will be on the roof here and on this small roof of what they call stair B outside of the historic district, which is right here.
And what will be the,
They're split system units, which allow them to be significantly smaller than.
so where they'll be standing on the six-story extension,
Right.
it'll be in front of the elevator bulkhead. How large will those mechanicals be, and will they be visible?
They are not visible. They're approximately 4 feet high and will sit on the roof. They're definitely not visible. This view shows them, and you see that the elevator bulkhead is marginally visible from, as we said, from 84th Street, but the mechanical units would not be.
Who does this? This is facing north. This building will be facing north,
Correct.
and the school will be in front of it on 84th Street.
On 83rd Street.
On 83rd. Who will see this building from the rear? Who will? On street level?
Nobody.
No.
Well, I mentioned those two small view corridors. Other than that, no one will see it from the street. The church, if we look at this axonometric, the church is in the foreground here. And I suppose if you wanted to open one of the stained glass windows and poke your head out, you could see it from the church. But from the streets, only those two very small view corridors would have visibility.
So two more questions. If it's close to the church, what's the problem or issue, I mean, with light in the church? Is this blocking it? So that's question one. And the other one is, what are these windows made out of? Are they wood? Are they metal? And how big are they?
They're aluminum windows. They're 13 foot 4 inches wide typically. And the height varies from, I would think, 8 feet at the top to about 12 feet at the bottom. The blockage of light to the church, I think, would be extremely minimal. I shouldn't say that. That's an opinion. I think it would be not significant in the sense that, well, the sun obviously goes from the east and around to the west. The light would, if there's an impact at all, it would be to the side aisle of the church. And the windows there are not very large or significant anyway. I could pull up a photograph of that, of the church facade.
What's the distance of the new building to the church? How far away is it on that, at that point, where
Okay.
those windows are?
I can give you an exact dimension, but approximately 44, 45 feet.
Oh, feet.
If we're looking at this slide here, the lot line is here, and there's a 6 or 7 foot gap between the facade of the church and the lot line itself. And then here's the courtyard, and then the addition would be back here.
So
So
you're
it's,
saying there's about 40 feet?
yes,
So that, okay, that's significant.
Yeah.
It's fine. I mean, to my mind, I would rather that there not be aluminum windows. I would rather that the windows not be so oversized. But other than that, I have no comment. And I'm fine, and the ramp is fine, of course.
Next.
Sorry, I muted myself. Would you like to stick with the committee members or all the board members? Because next in alphabetical order would be,
Now, what I'd like to do, because of the voting, let's go with the committee members, and then let's go with the public members and the board members.
okay, I just wanted to be clear. I'm sorry. Thank you. So the next would be Alita Camp, our chair.
Okay, thank you. I have just a couple of points. The green plastic bag that the guy was holding on the roof, is that the size of the visibility of the elevator bulkhead, or was that just relative height?
that's the height of of course, the elevator bulkhead is going to be bigger than that bag. It's going
Right, no, that I know. I was wondering if it was just a wee little corner of the elevator. So we have no idea how much of the elevator bulkhead is actually going to be visible.
I think we do. Let me go back to that slide. Give me a second. I think it's fair to say that if you can see my cursor here, it's something like this. If that makes any sense at all.
It does, and it's unfortunate because that building that's highlighted right now, the parish house, is a beautiful building. Combined with the church, it's a very stately set of buildings on that street. And I know because I live around the corner, so I pass it quite frequently. And it is fairly unusual in this area to have those kinds of stone buildings like that, as far as I am thinking. And to have something that size will unfortunately break up the skyline of those buildings. So that's one point. The other one about the ramp, is there any kind of guard rail or handrail that will be visible from the street or will line up behind that decorative fence on 83rd Street so that it will be visible?
Okay, let me respond two things. First of all, I hear you about the visibility of the bulkhead, but keep in mind that there's also the visibility of this chimney which exists, which is certainly closer and more significant impact than the bulkhead would be. But to answer your question about the ramp, there will be you can see it perhaps in this axonometric here. Let me blow it up. There'll be a 3 foot high, simple steel railing, which will be visible behind the decorative fence. There's no alternative to that, at least no alternative that I can imagine, because the handrails are required. But it's the simplest thing that we can do there.
And that will extend for the length of the ramp, which is how many feet did you say?
It's 12 feet, so the handrail would extend 14 feet because it has to go 1 foot beyond the top and the bottom.
Okay. And then I have one other question not related to this. A while ago, the Landmarks Committee heard an application from the church to change its sign. It's not quite signage, but notifications on the front of the church to LED lights. And they're really quite bright. Could you just give Will Brightbill the name of someone that I or someone or Jane or David could speak to about that?
I'm sure we can find that for you, yeah.
That would be great. Thank you. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't believe Sarah Chu is here, and so then the next person up would be Anthony. Anthony,
Yep. Oh, I am unmuted, yes? Can
correct.
you hear me? Okay. I don't actually, I think that the elevator bulkhead visibility really is minimal. And and I don't think that it is in any way a particular detriment. No, I'm not crazy about what the addition looks like. And in an ideal world, its relationship to the back of the parish house is, excuse me, is a little odd on the upper floors. But I don't really have any objection to this. Thanks.
All right, next would be Marco. Marco, you're unmuted.
Hi. Hi.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. The application, I think, is extremely very small and very sensitive. If the intention is to show us just only the part of the certificate of appropriateness. However, there is many issues behind that. And that is what I raised the issue of Mr. Freeman that said some fellow community member doesn't understand. Believe me, it took me three minutes to assess this project because it was very well presented. And I understand if your point is, let's go discuss just only the certificate of appropriateness right now, fine, I will approve and I will support the application. But it should be at the level also to present the zoning issue. If you want to discuss later, well, that's fine. So then you will hear my opinion at that time. But meanwhile, I support this application. Thank you.
May I respond to the zoning issue very quickly?
Yes.
There's only one issue that we need to go to BSA for. We have no FAR problems at all. We have a lot coverage issue. Lot coverage on the corner lot is permitted to be 75%. This addition would raise it to 79%. That's the issue that we need to go to BSA for.
Thank you.
After Marco would be Christina Davis. Christina?
Yes, thank you. Well, I didn't hear the whole presentation. I came at the midpoint, so I won't vote on this one.
Okay, thank you, Christina. Next would be Kim Selway, the other public member.
Hi, thank you, Will. So I have no specific questions on this application, and I echo some of the comments that Gail and Elizabeth made. And I appreciated the questions that Alita had asked just to clarify that bulkhead. But if the rest of the committee doesn't see that as being an obstacle, the visibility of that, then I defer to the committee.
All right. It appears Mrs. Brown has left. And so we'll skip her and go to Brian, who is one of our new members. Brian.
Yeah, well, thanks, Will. I just kind of learning about all this. This is all relatively new for me, but I don't have any comments about this.
Ryan, are you voting?
Yes,
And
I'm
I need
voting
your
for it.
I need your last name.
Correa,
Correa, okay. C-O-R-R-E-A?
E-I-A. Portuguese last name.
C-O-R-E-I-A. Okay.
Yep. 2 R's. C-O-R-R-E-I-A.
There are 2 R's?
Yep.
Okay. C-O-R-R-E-I-A. My apologies, but I want to get the names right. Okay, next.
Next would be another one of our new members, Harrison Pearson Haynes.
Hi, yeah, so thank you very much for the presentation, very informative. And thank you everyone for your questions. I'm also going to defer to the committee because I'm still getting used to it. It's my first actual committee meeting, so.
And Harrison, your last name, I see P-A-N-E-S?
Yeah, I have 2 last names, so it's P-I-E-R-S-O-N hyphen P-A-N-E-S.
So Pearson, P-A-N-E-S.
Yes.
Good, thank you.
And then the last member is Barry Schneider.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the presentation. I have no questions regarding that presentation. Thank you.
Jane, did you want to say anything?
Yes, I did want to say something briefly. It's such a banal building. It's behind, I know it's not visible from the street, but I wish it were a more beautiful building. I feel very sad that it's not prettier, but I'll vote to support the application. I really feel so strongly that young students learn so much from the environment that they're in. You look at St. Bernard's, you look at some of these schools that are really in distinguished settings for their students, the interior murals, the copper flashing, which is already on the existing high school. So I'm just sorry it's not a more distinguished building, even though it's not visible. It's going to be heavily used by parents, by students, by administration, by faculty, by the Jesuits themselves. So I feel badly that it's such a banal building. That's my only comment, but I will support the application.
Jane, you had my thinking exactly. I'm a little disappointed in the architectural character of the building. Just because it's a background building doesn't mean it can't be made a little bit more beautiful and still feel comfortable in the setting. And it is very, very visible. And the fact that it's cutting down the courtyard size is all the more reason for making the architecture that much more beautiful. However, I too will support it because of its invisibility. And just to echo some of what's been said, I think by Anthony and others, what you're seeing in terms of those views from the 2 points outside of the perimeter of the building is so minimal that they really do not affect the invisibility of the building, and they don't really affect the way you're going to experience the complex from the exterior. It's pretty much as it is now. And if anything, possibly a little bit better, getting rid of the mechanical equipment. So unless anybody has any reason not to vote, I will take the vote. Okay. Ashby.
Wait, they have to be unmuted, so give me 1 second to unmute them all.
Okay.
Don't we assume
I
that?
need a resolution, actually, so we might as well follow. I need a resolution. It sounds like it's a resolution to approve.
Second.
Second.
Second,
Okay, now we can vote. Elizabeth?
Yes, but don't we assume that we're all yes? And then you raise your paw when you're not?
Oh, we can do that. We can assume the royal yes. I don't think we've done that very much, but does anybody?
We did the last
anybody
time.
have a hand to be raised?
Wow.
Well, they're all unmuted right now, so if they want to speak up, they could speak up.
No.
Okay, so everybody is voting yes. That makes it
Yes.
simple.
Okay, that's easy.
If you can,
Thank you very much.
Will,
I believe
Right.
Christina was not voting,
Christina was-
right?
Yes. Thank you.
Mhm.
And Sarah Drew's not there, and
Will, you'll email us those voting sheets, please?
I will. I'll email them to you at the end of the meeting.
Here, I did everything by hand, but now I'll take your beautiful crisp.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that's
Will
perfect.
is terrific.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to mute everybody back and we'll move on to the next one if you're ready, David.
It's my turn now, Will.
Sorry.
Number one was so easy. These two will probably be extremely complicated. Just as an editorial aside, I feel so badly that that addition is so banal. We're going to move on to number two, 10 East 92nd Street. Luckily, not so banal. A Renaissance Revival building originally constructed in 1890-92 by Thomas Graham. Application is to expand the existing stair bulkhead. Sorry, I just lost it. At the roof into a penthouse, which is not visible allegedly from the public thoroughfare. So with that, we'll hear from the applicant.
Okay, let me find the names of the applicant and have them unmuted.
It says Pietro Cosignani, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, is the architect.
Yes, I have him. I have Albert Betesh and
Betesh.
Lucas McCarroll as the three presenters. And you do have
That-
access to present your screen.
Great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Albert Patesh with Chipanani Kala Architects.
So you're presenting, how do you spell your name, just so I know?
Uh,
Because as the architect who's presenting.
Albert Patesh,
Albert, and how do you spell the second name?
B as in boy, E, T as in Tom, E, S as in Sam, H.
Okay, thank you so much, Batesh. Okay.
Can everyone see the presentation on my screen?
Not yet. No. Will, are you working on that? Who's working on the split
He
screen?
should be able to do it right now.
I
It's-
have the presentation up. Can you all see the presentation?
No.
No, hit the green button at the bottom of your screen that says share screen, and then you'll have to click on the presentation in a second screen and then hit share.
Okay, start broadcast. Can you all see it now?
No. We got it so easily for the previous application. I'm not sure what the problem is.
Will, if you are you able to pull it up? I can.
Yeah, I can pull it up as long as you're fine with me going through it for you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be fine.
Is this it?
Yep,
Yeah.
This is it.
Okay, do you want to start?
Sure. Can you fit the page to the screen? Is that possible?
Is it not? Yes. Let me zoom out. There we go. Oh.
Great. Perfect. So this is an application for a rooftop addition, which is not visible from the street, at 10 East 92nd Street, located on the south side between Fifth Avenue and Madison Avenue. The only reason why this had to go to public hearing is because there was a previous rear addition on the property. In the upper left-hand corner, you can see photos from the 1940s at the time of designation and current condition. You can go to the next page. Here we have a block study showing rear yard and rooftop additions over time. The block is a mixed block. There are a series of row houses. Number 10 is in the middle, but we have the Nightingale Bamford School on the east side and 1107 Fifth Avenue on the west side. Across the street is the Jewish Museum in the former Warburg Mansion. In pink, we're showing rooftop additions. So at 8 East 92nd and 12 East 92nd, there are rooftop additions, as well as across the street at 5 East. Those were all completed roughly in the early 2000s. In the purple color is our proposed rooftop addition. The bottom photographs show, looking from the rear of the roof towards the front, the neighboring rooftop additions at 8 and 12 East 92nd Street. We can, if you look at, there's a gap in the street at 91st Street between 7 and 9. From that point of view, one can see a portion of the rooftop addition done at 12, but our proposed addition is not visible from the street. We can go to the next slide. On the left side, we have the existing elevation. You can see the existing stair bulkhead that's on the roof. And beyond it is an existing non-structural beam, which we're proposing to remove. On the right side is the proposed elevation showing the proposed rooftop addition with mechanical equipment, which would be located above, again, all of which is not visible. Next slide, please. Here we have a comparison of existing and proposed plans, existing on the left and proposed on the right. Generally, we're keeping the mass of the existing stair bulkhead, but we're proposing to eliminate existing mechanical on the south side of the roof, as well as that existing beam that I had mentioned before. On the right side, where we're showing the proposed, we're basically spanning the width of the roof, no larger than the width of the bulkhead. And above,
could you just tell us those dimensions?
It's
zoom in.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Which one?
It's the bottom right-hand corner, the plan there. Yeah. So the width is about 14'7.5", and the new area is about 8'11.25".
I don't understand that. 8 feet 11 1/4 is the new area.
Yes, because we're basically keeping the existing stair bulkhead mass, and we're just spanning from the existing stair bulkhead to the property line.
Increasing the width, is that increasing the width, that 8 feet by 11 1/4 inches?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Also, there's no impact to any existing chimney flues on our property or any on the neighbor's property as well. Next slide, please.
How many square feet are you adding? I'm sorry, how many square feet?
Can you go to the previous slide?
Yes.
So the existing stair bulkhead was 142 square feet, and the new area is 312 square feet. So it's roughly 170 square feet.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. The new area, you're keeping the existing bulkhead, which is
142 square feet.
right, and you're adding 312 square feet.
That's the total. That's including the, yes.
Oh, so what was the existing bulkhead is 142 square feet, and you're adding the difference between 142 and 312.
It's about 170 square feet.
Okay.
If my math is correct.
Thank you.
Sure.
Next slide.
Next slide, please. Thank you. The bottom right-hand corner show existing and proposed roof sections. Again, on the upper one, The existing, we can see the existing stair bulkhead, as well as the mechanical equipment, which we're proposing to remove, and the non-structural beam. And below that is the proposed, showing where we're spanning in between the existing bulkhead and the property line and the mechanical units above. On the upper, or I should move to the axonometric view. This might be a little bit clearer. An axonometric view of the roof showing the existing condition and the proposed rooftop addition. The photos on the upper left-hand corner show the existing.
I'm sorry, you're just widening what's already there.
We're not as wide as the existing bulkhead. We're less wide, but we're basically, yeah, we're coming across the roof.
Right.
Less wide than the bulkhead. That's correct.
Thank you.
Sure. There are existing photos of the bulkhead and roof on the upper left-hand corner, as well as the mock-up that we had built, showing the addition and the mechanical units above. And on the right of that, you'll see proposed elevations north and south of the addition. We're proposing white stucco to match the existing, as well as steel casement windows to match the existing. Next slide, please. This is a building section showing the sight lines from across the street and from an oblique view, demonstrating that, that the addition and mechanical equipment are not visible from the street. Next slide, please. Next, thank you. Our landmarks examiner had asked us to include this in case, and mostly for reference. It's a photo from the rear of the property looking towards the rear of the building. And that's it. Thank you very much.
I just have one more question, sorry.
Sure.
You're widening the bulkhead. This is to turn it into livable space, am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so you're widening the existing area to make more livable space. I get it. What's the overall height?
Can we go back to the section?
Which page? This one?
The one drawing up. Yeah. So we're increasing the parapet by 8.5 inches, only to accept dunnage for the new mechanical equipment above. But if you zoom in there,
here.
Yeah. Slightly to the right, please. Sorry. Thank you.
Right.
Yep.
So what is the overall height? Just curious.
It is 9'9" 3/4" above the roof level.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that your presentation?
That is all.
Okay, we're going to go to the public. Will? I think Lo might be here. I don't know.
Yeah, are there any members of the public who would like to raise their hand to be called on to speak in the public session? Lo is visibly raising his hand, but I'll accept it. Lo.
Yes, my name is Lo Vanderbalk. I'm president of Carnegie Hill Neighbors. I've been looking at this. We've been studying the street views, and I can largely confirm that this is not visible from the public way, which is our main concern. I do have two questions. The first is the presenter mentioned why this is coming before the Landmarks Commission, since it's not visible from the public way. Was there something about a preceding application that required this?
Yes, so there's a provision in the Landmarks Code which says that if a rear yard addition has been completed, a rooftop addition, whether visible or not, cannot be approved at staff level and has to go before public hearing.
Yes, okay, got it. Then a minor question is the guardrails. at the front, the proposed, the existing and the proposed, I believe you will be replacing it with another guardrail of roughly the same dimensions. Is that correct?
The guardrail at the front of the roof will be existing to remain.
To remain. Is any of that visible from the public way? That guardrail?
Most likely.
Some of it is.
I don't know for sure, but I would imagine probably from an oblique view, it might be visible.
Okay, because my photographs were mainly from Fifth Avenue, from the direction of Fifth Avenue, which did confirm what you have been saying. And the other statement is there's a fence between your property at the level of the penthouse floor, between your property and number 8. It has a white wall. And a portion of that is visible from the public way, but that apparently is not on your property.
We're not
to the west.
So in this section, in this existing section that we have up on the screen, it would be the wall that's beyond the bulkhead.
Yes, and it goes all the way to the front of the building.
I don't believe that is on our property. It may be a party wall, but we're not proposing to do anything with that wall.
Okay, so it's sort of grandfathered, if you will, if it is yours.
Correct.
That was the only part that outside of the railing, the guardrail that was visible. But I took it not to be part of your property, but could you look into that before it goes to the Landmarks Commission?
Actually, it would demonstrate it on the plan on the drawing above. If you can switch slide.
This one?
Yeah. So you're correct. That is not on our property. So the property line is shown inbound of that wall.
Okay. Okay. And a final question is how have the neighbors reacted to this?
We've had positive feedback with the neighbors. I think the main comment was that we're eliminating mechanical equipment on the south side of the roof. They were very happy to hear that, and that it'll be located above the new penthouse. So that was, I think, very positive for the neighbors directly adjacent at both 12 and 8.
And what we often experience with new penthouses or additions to penthouses is the air conditioning units and the noise they might generate. Have you looked into any of that with the neighbors?
We have not. These units, since they're new units, are generally quieter and more efficient. We haven't discussed any acoustical mitigation or the need for it as of yet.
I hope you can do that, because that tends in the end to be a large source of complaints after the fact. I know it's not totally in the Landmarks purview. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Is there anyone else from the public?
If so, they need to raise their hand through the participants menu. Otherwise, it looks like you're done with the public comment.
Okay, Will, so you can go to the committee same way that we did for the previous application in alphabetical order, then the public members, and then
The members.
yeah, other
Okay.
board members.
Okay. Elizabeth Ashby.
Yeah, since this is invisible, I have no objection to it.
Okay. Next would be Gail Barron. 1 second. Gail.
Yeah, I agree with Elizabeth. And also, I was pleased that Lo asked the question regarding HVAC, because even if it isn't part of the appropriateness, it certainly is something that neighbors are usually most concerned with. And those are my only comments.
Okay. Next would be Michelle. 1 second. Michelle?
Yeah, thank you very much. So my understanding, I think I heard you say that the additional height is going to be 9 feet, 9 inches. Am I correct?
Sorry, the additional height is 8.5 inches above the
8.5
roof level.
inches
Yes,
above, oh, the
above the
current,
existing,
above the existing.
bulkhead, correct.
Okay, so did you consider mechanicals in that?
That does not consider mechanicals.
So with mechanicals, how high is it?
Will, would you mind zooming into the section there? Thank you.
This one?
Yes. So we are an additional 4.5 feet, so about 13 feet above the roof level.
So when you did your sight lines, you included the mechanicals?
Absolutely.
Okay, so there's no visibility. Now
No
it's all
visibility.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would like to add, we've taken a lot of photographs, you know, on the street, and nothing is visible. Our landmarks examiner advised us not to include the photos because there's nothing to see. So, but as you can, if you don't mind panning to the upper left corner, we have built the mock-ups with the proposed mechanical units, and they're not visible from the street.
Okay. And this addition is white stucco, as was the old addition?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. The next person up would be Alita Camp.
Thank you. I just have one question. You're adding more windows, right?
Yes.
So will the light from those windows be what happens in the evenings?
Well, we do have, we will have window treatments, but we do need to add, for light, you know, and air purposes, we do need to add windows on the rooftop addition.
I understand that. I'm just wondering about the emanation of light from those windows at night.
Well, as I mentioned, again, we will have window treatment, you know, on the interior, which will mitigate light emanating from the rooftop addition.
If they use them, but I mean, it's not very high, but it will give them a better view than lower down. That was my only question. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
I still don't see Sarah Chu, so the next person up would be Anthony. Anthony, you're unmuted.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Will. I think this is fine. And in terms of the light coming out from the addition, the enclosing walls to both east and west are so high that I suspect it will not be particularly visible from anywhere except, and I don't know what's across the street, but from across the street up higher. I don't have any problems with this.
All right. Skipping the co-chairs, the next person would be Marco. Marco, you're unmuted.
Thank you. I think the extension is very modest, 170 feet, 170 feet squared. I found that they could do better in the character of the extension, but you try to be consistent with its existing, and I think it's perfectly fine. The only thing is I'm going to do a comment that I didn't do before too. You using the air conditions, the split system. Yes, that's correct. But I have an impression that these systems doesn't help for the purpose of the coronavirus. Why? Because the split system is just what it does is pull out heat from inside of the spaces, and then they throw back the same air. So basically, they mixed up the virus and they throw for everybody. And I think that will be a major point, but I'm not an expert in that virus. What I'm trying to say is that probably may trigger later that you have to reconsider the split system, and then you have to go for the package system, which is more bulky than the split system, and that will recreate different situation. Even though with the package system, it will still not visible. But I think that will be a point that I would like to comment only. But the application I support. Thank you.
Thanks, Marco. Next would be the public members. Christina Davis.
Thank you. Yes, I can support this application. I wanted to ask you, who is your landmarks person?
Our examiner is Misha El Shabrami, and her supervisor is Bernadette. Her last name is escaping me, but
okay. Thank you. No, that was
sure.
a very good presentation.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And then next would be Kim Selway.
Hi, my one question, the roof as it exists today, when was that added to the building, do you know?
I believe the last renovation was done in 2002.
Okay. Overall, I support the application. My one thing was going to be that the new style of both the windows at the roof and the door, it might match a bit with the existing roof addition, but it doesn't go with the rest of the building. But it seems like I am in the overwhelming minority, so I would be willing to let it go. That's it. Well, no, nothing
Oh,
else.
sorry. Yeah. Okay. The next would be, I don't believe Mrs. Brown has rejoined. So Brian, I'm going to unmute you, Brian, as soon as I find you. Sorry. Brian.
Thanks, Will. Yeah, I don't have any public comments, and I'll defer back to the committee.
All right, and then Harrison, 1 second. Harrison? You have to hit a button at the bottom.
There we go. Yeah, so from what I've heard, it seems that there isn't really any legitimate, tangible impact that this will have. And so I have no objection with it, so I support it.
Thank you. And then finally, Barry.
Thank you. A very fine presentation. I can support it. Have a pleasant evening.
Thank you.
Jane, David?
David, did you want to say something?
Very quickly, just that I thought it was a very clear presentation. I'm certainly in support of it. I think in deference to Kimberly, perhaps she doesn't understand that the Landmarks Preservation Commission sometimes is very happy to see being totally different, so that it's not meant to replicate what's been there already.
Okay.
But you see the difference between the addition and the new and the existing. And in the particular case of this building where
I think that looks better than
This,
the new, yeah.
in the particular case of this building where the addition is essentially invisible anyway, it's really irrelevant. But take a look at a lot of the buildings that the LPC has approved, and as opposed to the Jewish Museum where replication, most of the additions are not replications. They are expressive of their point in time, but they are different. And I'll give you my last editorial comment. The worst representation of that is the frick, which has been approved.
Thank you, David, for your last editorial comment.
Listen, I have very few venues in which to do that.
Well, I totally understand, so I'm all for it, especially in that particular case or peculiar case. One last question from me. The overall addition is very modest, 170 square feet. I'm in favor of the resolution. Does somebody want to formulate, favor of the application. Does anybody want to formulate a resolution?
Resolution to approve because the addition is discrete and not visible from the street.
somebody wants to give like a reaction to
We need
second
a
it. Oh, I
Well-
see Michelle and Alita both have seconded.
Great, thank you. Okay, with that, we can go to a vote. Will, you can do the vote again. Maybe we should do it the same way as last time.
Okay, give me 1 second to get the voting sheet back up. And then okay. So if are we doing it? Raise your hand if you're going to vote no, or abstain, or not vote for cause. So sounds like it's all unanimous.
Great, thank you, Will. We're going to go to the last application, which is 1107 Fifth Avenue, the expanded Carnegie Hill Historic District. The same architectural firm, is that right? No.
That's a mistake.
Yeah, oh, that was where I got confused before. I'm so sorry. Pietro,
Cicognani.
thank you. It's a beautiful name. Thank you. Anyway, this is application is for window replacement and enlargement on the 14th floor. And it's a very significant building to those new members of the committee or of the board. Please Google the address when you get home so you can see how magnificent it is. Anyway, with that, you may proceed. And we'll go to the split screen again. Thanks.
All right. I have for presenting this Stephen Harris, Patrick Plunkett, and John Wool. It's gonna give me 1 second to find the rest of them. So Stephen Harris, you're unmuted.
All right.
Patrick, I assume, is the only Patrick. And who is the last person? I don't see anybody named John.
Yep.
What is his? Could John raise his hand on the through the? Oh, there he is. I found him. Never mind.
I think John will share his screen.
Great.
That's great.
So we're just waiting for the screen to come up and we can start.
Okay. Can everyone see the screen?
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
It is ironic, but you're not entirely wrong. We were the architects who renovated 10 East 92nd in 2001.
Sorry, confusion.
And so we're 2 doors down the block now. As I'm sure everyone knows, this is an important building, primarily because of its history. As you know, when Fuller wanted in 1925 to construct a condo, he bought a mansion that was owned by Marjorie Merriweather Post. Her only requirement was that he recreate her 57-room mansion on the roof. So, as you know, there is a porte cochere on 92nd Street. It's no longer used. That was her private porte cochere. There was her private elevator, and there was her own doorman, things of that sort. The top 3 floors were the first and largest penthouse in New York at the time. And Mrs. Post had a 25-year lease on it. When that lease expired, she chose not to renew it. And it sat vacant for about 10 years, after which the top 3 floors were divided into 6 apartments.
What year was that? What year were they divided?
I think in the mid-50s, when it converted to a co-op.
Okay, thanks.
The architect of the building is Rouse and Goldstone. And all one knows about them is they have a significant history designing tenements across the city. This is obviously not a tenement. The triplex, if you look carefully at the facade, and John, can you blow up the top? There is a string cornice at the 13th or at the 12th floor. There is no 13th floor. Sorry, at the maybe it's 11th at the bottom of the 3-story penthouse there. And the fenestration above that point is somewhat different than everything below it. Everything below it was built as speculative, very high-end apartments. In particular, and you can blow it up and up, there's a tree in the way a little bit, but there is a very large Palladian window in the middle of that facade. And it ironically doesn't really align with the window below it. But that was a very grand hallway that was used as a ballroom. And that window was in that ballroom. So the lowest of the 3 floors had the major public room, had a dining room that was 125. The second floor was primarily the bedrooms for Mrs. Post, or anyone the name at the time. And the apartment we're looking at is the south half of the 14th floor. So, and to look at the Fifth Avenue facade, we are proposing the changes that we're proposing to the Fifth Avenue facade are being handled at staff, and they primarily have to do with through the wall ventilation units that we are closing off and modifying. And we are also changing one door within its existing opening because it's deteriorated. Our work is primarily or entirely on the south and east facades. The south facade, as you can see there, and again, John, if you can blow it up, it goes from like most party walls in New York, the brick on that facade shifts to a very common, it's called common brick. And that's typically what is used. The brick on the facade, the major Fifth Avenue facade is limestone and a much more elegant brick. This first probably 50 feet back from the facade is on the lot line. There is then a setback of approximately 10 feet where the brick changes to a lighter shade of brick. And there is a slight area way, at least above a certain elevation from there back. Maybe we can go to the south elevation, John, now and talk about that. Okay. If you look carefully, you will see first the dark common brick and those 3 windows, which are, sorry, can you blow that one up, John, so we can see it? The existing south facade. There are 2 windows offset relative to the windows below them and a void. That void is onto a porch, an outside terrace. There is then a further setback in that facade, which occurs in between that common brick piece and the lighter colored bricks. That is set back about another 6 or 8 feet. So that's about 16 feet off the lot line. Our work on this facade is in that little recess there, which opens onto a small terrace, and the remainder of that setback facade. You'll see a rather motley assortment of odd little windows. I think there are 6 of them. 2 of them are alike, but the other 4 are all different. And if you just sort of glance down a little bit, you'll see that the windows on the floor below, and indeed on the floor above, are also quite irregular and idiosyncratic. Particularly with the top 3 floors of this building, the distribution of rooms was unique to the building. In this case, there were either bedrooms or staff rooms or other rooms, and all the uses have changed because what was originally Mrs. Post's bedroom is now the living room, and what is now the dining room was originally her husband's bedroom. So obviously everything got changed around at some point. Our proposal on the right, if you can slide it over a little bit, John. Is to slightly regularize those windows. We are combining, if you look at the left one for a moment, you'll see the first two windows in that light brick section are different. One has a lot of framing. I think it may be a window air conditioning unit sticking out the top of it. And the other one, we're basically combining those two windows into one. The next two, we are pretty much replacing in their existing opening. And then the two on the right, we are making align with, and if not match, at least relate to the existing. I mean, the only one we're changing actually is that one that has the shade halfway down, big and square. We're making it smaller. So basically what we're proposing to do on this facade, this is the south facade of the building, is to, for lack of a better term, clean it up a bit and slightly regularize the thing. We're proposing nothing in the first part of the building, the darker brick. We're leaving, those are all exactly as they are. On the other facade, the east facade, again, this is a building which obviously it was all one apartment on 3 floors, but it is divided in half. So ours is the south half, and the building is obviously on the south side of 92nd Street. So perhaps the first 50 feet or so are a different apartment. And then there is a little light well in between, and then we're on the back part of that. And again, if you look at, there are two, what a friend of mine once called hot cross bun sort of windows on the left. The next thing you're reading over there that appears sort of black is a louvered air conditioning sort of condenser room. And then there's another window that's beside it. Again, here we're proposing to make those 4 windows virtually the same. They're very, very similar. We're making another modification, which I don't think can be seen, which is all the way in the crotch of the light well. So it's all the way in the back of the light well, and we're, are cleaning up that window as well. Most of these windows, we think, were installed quite a long time ago. They are, shall we say, they were very cost effective at the time. The windows we're proposing are metal. They're actually, they're bronze windows. They're bronze window frames with a natural statutory bronze finish on them. So they're, they should last for quite a long time. Interestingly, in the image on the right, the project you just discussed is in the foreground. 10 East East 92nd. So these are the drawings of. John, would you?
Sure. Which do you want? Do you want the
one you
south?
just saw?
South?
Yeah, this is the south elevation then. Reading from left to right, no change, no change. Change to the grill under the window, but the window is the same. Void, no change. The next two are 2 new windows, but again, that there is an existing, we're just reconfiguring and rearranging them. That is a, no, the one in the recess of the dining room, John. That is set back about 8 feet behind the right-hand setback. So reading from left to right, the first plane with those first 3 windows and the void is on the property line. The next plane, also gray, is set back about 8 or 10 feet behind that one, off the property line. The one with the little bricks drawn in is set back 8 feet behind that. So, and as you can obviously tell, the windows on the floor above, the top floor of Mrs. Post's sort of penthouse, most of those have been changed as well over time. Many of the windows in this building, particularly the top 3 floors, have been shifted around to accommodate a complete revision in the uses of it.
I don't mean to interrupt, but just for a second to go back. I see the recess. It looks like brick that's set back 8
Yeah.
feet from the side elevation.
Right.
But go west. There's also a recess. I
Yeah.
see the initial recess where it looks like a door opening to a terrace. Then
Yeah,
there's
that's
this.
on the Fifth Avenue facade, and we're not changing them.
Okay.
That's all
So-
being done. We're just
Okay.
fixing them.
I'm just confused about the recess. I understand the recess where the terrace is, but the other recess I don't understand.
Can you blow that up, John, and show the corner?
I'm going to go to the plan, Stephen. So here you can explain
Okay.
it.
All right.
That
Okay, that building on the Fifth Avenue side has on the 14th floor 2 notches. There are 2 little corner terraces.
I see it. I get it. Okay, that explains it
Yeah.
much.
So what you're reading, if you'll point it out, John. So what we were talking about is that wall is on the property line. John, show
Right.
that wall.
this one right here.
No, the wall on the property line. That one.
Yeah, this one.
That's
And then there's the recess of 8 feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct.
No,
This
there's
is
a
12
setback
here.
of 10 feet and a recess of 8 more feet.
I
Yeah.
get it. Get it. Okay. Okay.
That's the other
Thank you.
terrace.
And as you go around the corner, there's that light well on the
Here.
east side of the building.
Okay.
Yeah. And from that, you can read the only place where any part of our facade is coplanar with the top floor is the north side of that little recess off the dining room. John, when you
Oh,
pointed out.
right here. Right here.
Right there. And the window above that has been completely changed. So that's.
Okay.
Like, yeah, so there's no continuity here.
So you're trying to
Between these.
regularize the windows on the south facing facade and on the east facing facade of that apartment building.
We're trying to just, those windows obviously have another side. They're in rooms. And we're trying to make the rooms more coherent. So you don't have what had been Mrs. Post Butler's bathroom window, adjacent to a window that was in someone's closet and what's now a
Well,
dining room.
So you're trying to regularize the windows to
Yeah.
fit the floor plan on the inside.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
But I think we're also trying to be careful and walk a kind of fine line, recognizing this is not the primary facade of the building.
Right. Gotcha.
This
Got
is a
it.
side wall. And as a result, they're not all exactly alike. They don't line up perfectly. There are a few little idiosyncrasies here and there. So you don't mistake it for some sort of monumental facade. We're not
Right.
proposing a Palladian window, for example.
No,
No.
I understand. I know the front elevation is the most primary
Yeah.
part of the building. I understand.
So
So
that's the side. And you want to go to the east side, John, again?
So then this shows the work on the east.
Yep.
And then there's details here for anyone interested in the profile of the window.
But they're all bronze and they're all open, they aren't casement windows, they're double hung windows. They are
They're in swing casements. Makes them very easy to clean,
in swing casements.
as are almost all the windows in the building.
Is there a master plan for the building at all? No.
There is.
Oh, there is.
a master plan for the building.
Okay.
And you can see in each of the elevations that we've shown, this is the approved 2009 master plan. And so while the master plan shows a lot of hung windows, in the last 11 years, there's been very little change. And the building, the vast majority of windows on the building are whole glass lights.
May I ask, what was the historic window for the building?
Probably double hung.
Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
from what we've seen in the historic drawings, it looked like it was a double hung originally.
Okay.
But also when the building was built in 25, I'm not sure they had large panes of glass like this and in swing casements. But if you go to the front facade, John, and that's the one that has
This is so awful. Okay, so
I mean, even the front facade, they're virtually all single light windows.
well, we of course prefer the original historic idea for the window. But you're telling me all the new windows on both the east and the south elevations are going to be casement single
Light
lights.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're trying to regularize the sort of pattern on the windows. I think, is that your presentation essentially?
Yes, we have other drawings. If you have other questions, we can show.
Well, why don't we go to the public now? I'm sure Lo has a comment on this. Will?
My name is Lo Vanderbalk. I'm president of Carnegie Hill Neighbors. This is a wonderful building. It has, as the presenter stated, it has a very illustrious history, not only in its occupant, but in the story of converting a mansion to the top 3 floors of a new modern luxury apartment building. And so this does stand out historically, but it also stands out physically and visually, because the Autocon mansion to the south, and then what's now the Cooper Hewitt, but the Carnegie Mansion further to the south, and then you come to Engineers Gate of the entry to Central Park and the reservoir. So this is a very much traveled area, and because of the changing heights of the buildings, this building is highly visible. Unlike, say, the Jewish Museum from this point of view. And I might add that I would like to term these blocks, and this is going a little bit astray, but it shows the importance of this building, sort of a Carnegie, Andrew Carnegie Plaza, which includes the Church of the Heavenly Rest, and then beyond that, the Guggenheim. And so you have about 5 blocks that are very unique and have the character of public buildings, even though there is one apartment building in that. So this is one of the bookends. This building forms one of the bookends. To East 88th is the other bookend. So that shows you how big and expansive this area is. And so anything that happens to this building is going to be observed. And our last difference with this building was the conversion of the water tower to a much higher, probably double of what we see on the south facade now. But that thankfully has not been executed, and I hope it will not be. Then I have one question for the applicant, which is not totally germane, but the great Palladian window on the 13th floor now, are the side windows of that Palladian window filled in? They're no longer glass. It looks very strange from the reservoir. Do you?
I don't know if I'm unmuted or not, but
No, I can hear you.
I don't know. It's not on our floor. We're the floor above it.
Yeah.
And I also don't know exactly. I mean, I assume when they divided that floor into 2 apartments, they didn't put a wall down the middle of the Palladian window.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I mean, I don't.
That was in the ballroom.
Then my next comment is, I understand that corner, that indent at the cornice, you're saying that's, yes, thank you. You're saying that's being handled at staff level, and you're making essentially no changes other than modernizing it.
We are changing the doors to, I mean, it currently has, shall we say, undistinguished, sort of slightly suburban, sort of one swing door with 2 side lights. And we are changing it to something that is more in keeping with the, the rest of the building, I think.
But it is, but you've kept the horizontal division of three
Yes.
names.
Yeah. It is
And
still 3 lights, and it
Three
is
lights.
it is with the same opening. We haven't changed the opening.
the width of those, the mullion width might be slightly different from currently, but we're not going to quibble. I'm very pleased to see that you kept that.
Yeah.
Okay, now I just want to comment. This has been a very hard drawing to understand because in some ways you don't see a before and after. The existing and proposed is not always easily accessible or easily. This is and the other point that is significant is that you say there is a master plan, but you are departing substantially from that master plan. Isn't that true?
In each one of these cases, what we've tried to do is existing facade, proposed facade, and master plan. So they're all lined up across from each other. So you theoretically can compare them.
Okay, although, yeah, in one case it's a drawing, and the other case it's photographs, correct?
Well, the master plan is a drawing, and we thought this would be more. I mean, it's very difficult to photograph these lot line facades and get them accurate in order to be able to render them correctly.
Okay. Okay. Do you know what year the master plan was introduced?
2009.
Really? That's late. Okay. That's not ancient. Okay. When I look at the master plan on this floor, I see a lot of divided lights, okay, on those windows, especially say the east master plan, which we're looking at now. But you're departing from that, correct? And I think that
yes,
and that the other half of the building, or the right section, has already departed from that, right? Because those are also unitary single lights.
I mean, for lack of a better term, I think that facade's a bit of a free for all.
Yeah, hodgepodge.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, I just think our goal was to make it clean and tidy, you know, and sort of tasteful, you know.
Okay, so I see it is you are a very important floor because you're the top floor, so you do frame the facade, you know, so what's at the edges becomes very important, especially at the top. So I think an issue will be, and I don't have a position on that at this moment, you know, to what degree some division of lights could be introduced in some of those windows, and without destroying what the occupant would like to achieve. Can you turn to the south facade, if I may ask? Yes, okay. And then the detailed, I think it might be page 7, the detailed view of those windows, the drawing.
This one, I believe, correct?
Yes, that's page 7. Yeah, okay. So the first 4 windows you've sort of explained, going from left to right.
Yes.
There is
no changes. Well, the 4th one's not a window; it's a void.
Are you introducing a window into the 4th, or
no?
You're keeping that as a void.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Then skipping the indent. Okay. But looking at the others, I think you've done a pretty decent job of trying to create some order out of chaos. And I have to say, I'm particularly pleased with the large 8 feet dash 3 inches window where you have a tripartite glazing. So that's, and that raises the question, why didn't you do that for the indentation, the 6.3 window? I hope you can see what I'm talking about.
I think it has to do with use, which is that the 6.3 window is a public room. It's the dining room, and it's on the terrace. The other one is a bedroom, and so again, we're trying to balance the public expression of the character of this apartment and the kind of internal needs of trying to restore this to being a somewhat grand apartment.
And there is a third, you cannot see it from anywhere, but that 6-3 window, there's a door to its right. Well, there's another door to its left, but it's onto a terrace behind that void.
So it is tripartite, actually.
It's ABA.
All right, but it's a pretty big window though for a tripartite. Are you saying what's to the right of the 6-3? Are you referring to the 3-2?
Yeah, there's another 3-2 door that flanks the 6-3. The 6-3 is in the center of the dining room. There's a 3-2 door to this side, and there's a 3-2 door to that side.
That faces, that is at an angle, at a 90-degree
That's
angle.
inside of this covered outside space.
And what is also
you mean
slightly
it's the
misleading
same
about
plane,
this?
but it's recessed?
Correct, because this outdoor space has a very awkward intersection with this terrace.
I see. Okay. Okay.
So what we were trying to do was to line up the A door with that void. So
I mean,
it made sense out of that. And then we had
Since
to
you
figure
know and
out-
care about this building, you'll like this anecdote. This was Mrs. Post's sleeping porch. This was Mr. Post's sleeping porch, and they met in that moment right there.
Great story. Okay, so, well, you know, one thing that is true, the most common view of the 6-3 window is from Fifth Avenue. So you're looking at it from an angle, and part of it is obscured by the east, by the western portion of the building, which is sort of a primary facade, if you will, in terms of the surface.
John, you need to slide it up.
Yep, I know.
Yeah, so you get the illusion that it's almost the same size as the window you can fully see.
Yeah,
to the
Yeah,
right.
you do.
I think you will.
Yeah.
So
And
I'm not
although
trying
we
to give
never-
you ammunition. I'm just trying to be analytical. And then the only other sort of quibbling point is that sometimes the height of these windows varies. I mean, even the last two windows on the extreme right, one is slightly larger than the other, although, you know, the difference isn't that great. You have to really stop and look at it. I think it's both wider and taller, but it's just.
I think they're the same height. It is wider. I mean, this is going to sound really persnickety. We were actually working very hard to regularize it, but also keep it ever so slightly idiosyncratic. So it didn't look too serious. You know, we've been working with landmarks for about 30 years and understand that lot line or property, you know, sort of secondary facades should not look like primary facades.
Right, right.
And so, you know, they've asked us in the past to quirk it up a month. It means something different now. To make it a little less regular.
Okay.
So the three on the right all have the same head height. The next two have a ever so slightly lower head height.
Yes. What is that dot above the first of the next two?
It's a ventilation grill that we're maintaining.
Okay. No
It
way
exists.
to lighten that up and make it less visible?
Yeah, if we can, it'd be great to have it painted to match the brick. It would look much better, I agree.
Okay, okay. Well, that's sort of, you know, I'm not coming down on any one opinion. I'm just sort of trying to analytically understand what you're doing. I do appreciate that you have decent motivations for what you're trying to do. But I'm a bit concerned that there's such a departure from the master plan, which is only 10 years old, but probably not the first.
I would say, and ironically, if you followed the master plan, it would be the only things on these facades that do. And it would look unlike every other window on that facade. If you look at the ones on the floor below and the floors below that, you know, they all have shades down, but, you know, they're all, you know, incredibly, all single light windows.
Oh, yeah, on the extreme left, right? But not
Yeah.
on the right, when the smaller windows on the right.
Well, some of them are, but some of them aren't. The one on the floor below is, I mean, we can't show you the floor below that.
No,
the
but
floor below.
yeah, just the floor below, immediately floor below.
I would add that the master plan itself, especially in the secondary facade, creates some very weird conditions. It keeps multi-glazed doors onto the terrace here with all of these steel doors and lights. It then goes to double hungs with different sized pieces of glazing across. It goes to a 4-point unit here. I don't think it represents a great composition.
Well, I think, with
Okay.
all due respect, Lo,
I'm done.
okay, thank you. I think I understand your concerns. It's basically the departure from the master plan. Is there anyone else from the public, Will?
I don't see anyone with their hands raised.
So we could go to the committee then?
Yes. Same order?
Same order.
All right. So
I
the
hope
first
I
one,
don't get, Will, just as an aside,
Yeah.
I hope I don't get cut off. If I do, I'll phone in. I
Oh,
seem to
okay.
be having a problem with my computer, just so you know, but we can go to the board members now.
Okay. Then I'll be as fast as possible. Elizabeth Ashby.
I'm not so upset about this being outside the master plan because I think the master plan is totally unacceptable. I think that it's very hard to say whether this is an improvement or not with the absolute desecration of this building's fenestration. I mean, look at the things they've got there, which have absolutely no relationship to what this building looked like, was designed to be like. So it's very hard to say that this is right or wrong when the whole thing is wrong. I honestly don't know how I'm going to vote on this. I don't think this is anything better or worse than what they've got there. And then what they have in all these single pane windows all over this wonderful building. I honestly don't know what one should say. It doesn't improve it, but you can't do any worse than what's there. So I'm thinking about my position.
All right. Next one up will be Gail Barron.
I agree with Elizabeth. I have concerns in general about the master plan and just envisioning what the building looked like when it had its historic double hung windows. I did have another question. On the south facade, you said that you were doing a change to the grille. And what materials will you be using?
The grill on that small window there will be painted to match the adjacent brick. It will be steel and it will be painted.
But I think she's referring, John, to where we're closing in.
Yes,
The
exactly.
ditch or through wall thing. I think we're bricking it back up.
Yes. You know,
Okay.
I think it's in one of the living room windows, John.
Oh, one of the living room windows. Yes.
Yeah, that was what I was asking about. Okay. Those are my only questions.
All right. Thank you, Gail. The next person will be Michelle. Michelle, you're unmuted.
Yes. Thank you. Those were the sentiments just relayed by Elizabeth and Gail. That was what I was thinking while I was looking at this. I was very disturbed about these single pane windows. I think they have not changed, but removed a lot of the character of the building. And to hear that that's the master plan was very disturbing to me. Now, as I caught a glimpse of the front facade of the building, I thought I saw either 6/6s or 8/8s scattered through the front facade.
It is correct.
I did see that. So are you sure that the original window was just a 1/1 and was not? Because very unusual for somebody these days to replace that with a multi-pane.
We don't know the history of the approval of the master plan, but this is now the official master plan is the drawing. that
Okay,
you
but
see.
I don't mean the master plan. I mean, are you sure that the single pane, that the double hung was the historic window?
That's a good question. No, I don't know that the double hung was the
Yeah.
historic window.
Well, I suspect not. I suspect that the multi-panes were the historic window and that over the years, they were modified to go to the 1/1, and then they went from there to the single pane window. Now, generally speaking, we usually don't care how long the building takes to get back to its original window. And we have voted, or at least I have, I won't speak for anybody else, but I know I and others have voted for, no matter what the proportion was of the newer window to the older window, to support the use of the older window, and then eventually over time, in the hope that the building gets back to its original construct. So that's a very big dilemma for me. Now, I understand and I sympathize that you're coordinating the windows that you're talking about with the interior layout, and that the functions of the rooms have changed. And so I understand that. I don't have a lot of objection to that. I would almost go with your new suggested configurations, but I would like to see 6/6s or 8/8. So whatever the original window of the building was. So I'm perplexed about that, but I just think that the character of this building was very, very significantly impacted by putting in those single panes. And somehow it goes against my grain to vote for them now as though they were a good thing. So I don't know. I can support, as I say, the changes in the adjustment of the window sizes and all that to accommodate your interior. But I'd like to see the original window configuration put back. So that's sort of where I stand.
My instinct is and I don't know the answer to your
Sir,
question.
you're a little bit out of order. We're going to
Okay.
go, the community board is making their comment, the community board members. Thank you, Michelle.
The
Will,
next,
can we go to the
yeah,
next person,
yeah, the
please?
next person will be Alita Camp.
Hi, thank you. I have to agree with Michelle, except I'm even, I have to agree with Michelle, except I'm even more emphatically opposed to it with Michelle and Elizabeth and Gail, because I have walked through the Central Park and looked at the Majestic, and that stunning building has a multitude of these single pane windows, and it's like looking at a gorgeous face with no teeth. It is appalling to me to just have these single pane windows in such a notable and beautiful building. So while, like Michelle, the change in the sizes of the window is acceptable, the style of the window is not. And just because people changed it because they want the views and they want the light, doesn't make it right. If your client wants a grand apartment, then the window should mirror that and be reflective of the style, the original period of the building, and not detract from the exterior. Thank you.
Next would be Sarah Chu. Sarah, you're unmuted.
Hi, I don't have any questions right now, and but I'm feeling similarly to my colleagues.
Thank you, Sarah. Next would be Anthony.
Hi. I think it's a really interesting problem. I looked for an earlier photo of the building and found one in the Columbia real estate archive. And it is certainly not original. It dates from probably 1950s. And in that, the majority of the windows were already 1/1 double hungs. The windows that are 8/8 underneath that little sort of balcony on the excuse me, on the west side were 8/8 in the 50s as well. And the first 3 floors of the building were all 8/8 even then, and I believe still are. The thing that's troubling, I guess, is that there, as a number of people said, there's a master plan. The master plan is not perfect, but it does show 1/1s as the sort of building standard and the new building standard. And while what's proposed is more in keeping with what's there now, then the question is, why do a master plan if you're going to ignore it? One thing I would like to know, but don't, and didn't have the wit to look for it, is how many window replacements have been done since 2009 that are also effectively in violation of the building's master plan. I don't think I can actually, opening sizes, all of that is fine. I don't actually know that I can support replacing the windows on we'll call it it's not really the west front, but the southwest piece, replacing those windows with the sort of monumental in-swing casements. And then just one other thing, which is really more of a comment, and more of a comment maybe on the management of this building. Looking closely at the photographs of the way it is now, there have been a lot of really bad repairs to the facade, and it seems a shame that they didn't take better care to actually match the existing brick when they made the repairs. Anyway, that's more of a comment than anything else. So I'm not sure I can actually support this based on the deviation from the undoubtedly hard-won master plan. That's it.
Next would be Marco.
Thank you. Let me put this way. I think there is a change of density from 1 mansion to 6 apartments. And these floors are the more visible on the whole neighborhood. So then you have a problem of the function follow the form. On the secondary, on this alteration is on the secondary facade, which basically allows you to have more latitude on changes and lack of consistency, if I can say that, lack of consistency in the organization of the windows. Then you have another element, which is basically the setbacks. The setbacks allow you to have even more latitude because they are on different levels, and you can read as in one plane, but seeing from outside, there is no much difference of that setback. And finally, the east facade, I found it much better organized. By itself, I understand you very well. You have a serious challenge as a designers to face all these elements and your judgment, it is basically between follow the form and then the function, or vice versa. That's basically the discussion that you have right here. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Up next is Christina from the public members. Christina Davis.
Thank you. So I understand what people are saying about the master plan. Regretfully, we're not voting on the master plan tonight. So we have to go with what we have, which what the application is. And so under the circumstances, I think the applicant has come up with a thoughtful resolution, because some of the buildings to the north of this building between 94 and 96 who don't have master plans have a terrible hodgepodge of windows if you look from the park. So under the circumstances, I'm going to support this application. It's not perfect, but we can't change the 2008 master plan. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Christina. Next will be Kim Selway. Kim.
Hi, thank you. I agree with, the other comments expressed by the committee. I don't have any further questions. I appreciate that the designers are sort of between a rock and a hard place with what they've been given versus the master plan. I'm not sure I can support this just yet, but I'm eager to see how the rest of my colleagues vote. Thank you, Will.
All right. I do not see Lorraine Brown. I saw an email from Brian that his internet gave out. I don't see him back. And then Harrison also messaged that he had to go. And that finally leaves us with Barry, and I don't see him either. So Jane and David, that's to you.
Well, thank you, Will. Hopefully before my computer falls apart. I really have a problem with this application. First of all, I think the presentation itself was extremely confusing. There ought to be a way to lend some clarity to the changes to the windows, especially on the south-facing elevation. That south-facing elevation, even though it's not the primary elevation on Fifth Avenue, is extremely important within the historic district. It's got the low and scale buildings adjacent to it. It stands out. You're sort of almost going on a little rise going up Fifth Avenue there. I prefer the treatment on the south elevation, but I cannot support this application. I think there had to be a better way of actually explaining the windows to us, members of the committee. Thank you. I'm sure David has a comment.
I agree with you. I thought it was a terrible presentation. First of all, there's nothing wrong. In fact, it's very appropriate to put elevation next to elevation next to elevation. It's the best way to understand what's going on, particularly if the scale is a reasonable size. Number one, a context scale, and number two, a more detailed scale. However, with that said, I feel that I'm going to support this. I think that we're dealing what I'll call an existing aesthetic. We're dealing with a master plan that I don't think is a particularly good master plan. Therefore, to start trying to copy that master plan and make that master plan happen, I'd rather see a new master plan. Therefore, my approach, I guess, is similar to Christina. I'm going to deal with what's there now. And with what's there now, I think that the hodgepodge that they're making is a little bit better than the hodgepodge that's there. So looking at an incremental approval, or rather an incremental improvement, I will support this. But as much as I have supported Michelle's idea of the way we've done it in the past, to try to say, let's go with what the original windows were, I think this is too far gone, number one. And number two, I think the master plan is the wrong master plan. So I'm saying let's take an incremental approach here, make it a little bit better, and hopefully there'll be an opportunity to actually redo this building in my lifetime.
Thank you, David. That's kind of a half-baked support.
It's
But,
a half-baked support, correct.
Unfortunately, I cannot support, but based basically on the presentation, does anybody want to formulate a resolution?
In this case, maybe raise your hand in the participants menu. Anyone?
Michelle, someone, Elizabeth?
Michelle.
Yeah, I'll make a comment. I know it's something that the co-chairs don't usually want to do, and I will understand it if you don't want to. But I could propose a two-part proposing the proposed openings, but disapproving the actual fenestration. But I don't, if
Michelle,
you don't
in
want
this
to do that,
case,
fine.
I don't think we can do that. I think that it's very difficult to support the size of the openings, the change in the openings without supporting what the applicant is proposing for the glazing. So does somebody else want to formulate a resolution?
It's about a resolution to disapprove. Can't
Second,
imagine somebody doesn't want to second it.
yes, I'm seconding it. Wait a
Anthony
minute.
raised his hand and Michelle is seconding it.
Yeah.
Anthony, is that
Okay,
what
so
you?
this is a disapproval.
Yeah, I'm gonna be in favor of the disapproval, primarily because I'm gonna reverse myself. It was a terrible presentation, and the incremental approach isn't that much better.
So, Will, can we take the vote, please?
Yes.
We're going to have to do it on a roll call.
Okay, that's fine. I'm gonna unmute some folks, so just please stay quiet while I do so, and then I'm gonna call the roll all at once. So all of the board members, I've asked you to unmute, and I'm just gonna go through the roll. Ashby, this is a disapproval. Ashby. Elizabeth Ashby. Did we lose her? Oh, she hasn't unmuted.
We'll just continue and then we'll come back to her.
Okay. Elizabeth, there's a button at the bottom of your screen you have to push. Gail Barron? Gail?
Yes,
Yes, yes. Okay.
yes for disapproval.
Yes. Okay, great. Michelle?
Yes.
Alita?
Yes.
Sarah? Sarah, you're still muted. She may have. Anthony?
Yes.
Halpern?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Marco?
Yes.
Christina?
No.
Kim?
Yes.
We don't have anybody from the other side. I'm going to see if I can get Elizabeth. Elizabeth?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. They should all be up on the screen.
Mhm. It is.
So that is 9 in favor, 1 public member in favor, 1 public member opposed.
Will, thank you so much for your help running the meeting. It's ironic, isn't it, that that third application proved to be the most complicated. I hope that I will do it justice when I write it up, but I do think that the presentation, it was very difficult to understand. It would be so easy to sort of approach it like a cookbook. 1, this window, 2, this window, 3, this window, especially with the recesses and the indentation for the terrace, especially on that very prominent south-facing facade. So thank you all for your patience and tenacity and help with Zoom. Just for a second, as you all know, I sent out to, or have the office, Saida, who's so helpful with the Landmarks Committee, send out the modifications the commission made for the Jewish Museum application, which they voted unanimously to support. And I read one of the articles that Will sent out in one of the local papers about how the commission also took in under consideration the art on the banner, which is totally irrelevant within a landmark district on a landmark building. But that was a huge disappointment. So I'm just adding my 2 cents in about that. Does anybody else have a comment on anything?
No.
You all want to adjourn and it's now 9. Well, it's 8:45. Well, thank you so much. And thank you, David, for your, I hope you'll review this 3rd resolution of mine on that
Jane,
beautiful,
I'll be happy to do that. And I think that you shouldn't dwell on detail after detail. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Well, I agree with you. I was, we hear so many great applications anyway. Thank you so much to everyone. And I guess that's it, Will. And I'll try to get my 2 resolutions to you by 5 tomorrow afternoon. Is that okay?
Yeah, as soon as possible is all I'll ask.
Thank
Okay,
you.
well,
Thank you.
Good night.
Have a great
Bye.
night.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Night.